Welcome to the Suicide Monk, and I'm your host, and my name is Britton. I just wanted to come on here and let you know that this is not a channel for advice. It is for suggestion. So the guests that I have on, they're doctors and psychiatrists and authors and people who have been through the ringer some of them are still going through it. And so it's about suggestion and life experience that we're trying to bring to the table, plus a profound knowledge from these professionals that maybe you can take and apply to your life. But if you do need help, immediate help, please call your authorities or somebody that can help you immediately, whether that be 911 or whatever country you're in, to get that immediate help for suicide. It's not the answer. I can sit here and honestly tell you that it's not the answer. So, but if you do find valuable information in this podcast and you want to support any of my guests, the authors, the foundations, the not-for-profits, please do so. If your heart is led to do that, please do so. Prayers, lifting people up, monetary is always welcome. And then if you would like to support the Suicide Monk, the podcast, I will put all the links in the bottom or in the description, and you can be led that way. So again, any prayers are lifting up, we appreciate that. Any positive comments, we also appreciate that. So thank you very much. Enjoy. I'm going to have a word from somebody that I value and cherish. She has helped me in a time of need, and her name is Scarlett. She's going to tell you about a product that she gifted me when I could not afford it. And it helped me tremendously through a lot of pain in my neck, knees, things like that I have a lot of inflammation from accidents in my past, and rolling trucks and head first into concrete walls and stuff like that. So motorcycles, I had the full gamut of abusing my body, and this natural medicinal stuff that she gifted me has been wonderful. So I'm gonna let her tell you about that, and then we'll get on to the conversation. This has been this is gonna be a great year. So sit back and enjoy. Thanks. We'll see you on the good side.
Okay. Hi, I'm Scarlett Raven, and I am the head alchemist and founder of White Fox Medicinals, which is an all-organic, earth-based plant medicine remedy company where I make effect-based tinctures and topicals to help you feel healed, whole, and totally loved. I have stuff like the Repair Remedy salve that will take out inflammation and pain from your muscles and your body. Other things that actually boost your spiritual inner love, like the Wild Starseed Love Cream. When you put this on, you smell intense aromas of deep Aztec chocolate, which awakens this love inside of your heart. This is edible. You can use it as a body cream. I also have a whole line of tinctures. Some of them heal the nervous system. Some of them boost your body's ability to heal itself. So whatever you're seeking for whole physical balance, that's going to incorporate your body, your mind, your soul, and your spirit, then I have some beautiful healing offerings for you. So go check it out at whitefoxmedicinals.com, and I'm happy to get you all set up.
Jainie Behling, welcome to the Suicide Monk.
Hello, good morning.
How are you today?
Doing really well. I've been prepping for this. Been very excited to be able to come do this. Talk to a lot of people this time of year. So thank you for letting me do this with you.
Yeah, for sure. You've kind of shifted gears a little bit. You've went to San Diego. Now you're in the kind of involving yourself into the military side of things, or has that actually come to your doorstep with PTSD and suicide ideology and stuff like that? So can you tell me a little bit about your background in psychology and because you're a student of your trade, which is one of the most beautiful things about who you are, and you really love what you do.
Mm-hmm.
You love psychology. And tell me a little bit about your background, how you got into that. And then we'll go into the military stuff, because I think that's going to be, because we are both moving in that direction, we'll have a little bit more conversation about that.
Oh,
So
good. Okay.
I guess we'll just do the build. What's the beginning? Then we'll tell the middle, and then we'll
Sure. Okay. Sure. The beginning. So it's close to 20 years now. I decided, I had gone through missionary training. I actually got a degree in biblical studies to be a missionary. That was an amazing journey. And then circumstances of life came and just shot me in a different direction. I had to consider what else I wanted to do with my life. And at that time, psychology was also another big interest of mine. So mental health, helping people, still getting very much very personal person. So I really like to kind of wade in the trenches in different respects with people. So that made sense. So there was a program that I found out about, a master's program for counseling psychology, and it worked well. It actually, my employer was able to pay for half of it. So that was another perk. So I was like, I want to see what this is all about. And it was almost immediate that I was like, this is why that didn't work out, because of this, So I stayed in that, started working with people in '06 is when I started working with dual diagnosed population. So that's people who have been diagnosed with some type of psychosis, some psychosis diagnosis, and addiction. So
psychosis diagnosis.
diagn-
It
yeah,
sounds like
that
a
rhymes.
TV show.
Yeah, that would actually make a good TV show. But
Yeah.
that and addictions. So, and homelessness was common. So, and that
Okay.
was in San Diego as well.
Nice.
So,
That is the trenches then.
that
I
was,
mean, that's
yes. And that was the
wow.
introduction for me. That was my first internship ever. And I absolutely loved it. I loved learning. I loved, applying practical knowledge, working with someone and listening to their information and starting to recognize that that is actually something, that it's not just strange behavior, but there's something that fits about that. There's something happening that causes that. And I absolutely enjoyed that. And I liked watching people just achieve something new for themselves, even though if it wasn't big, profound changes, it was just, if it was a new set of awareness, if it was some type
Small
of,
wins.
it was just really satisfying. And
Yeah.
so I kept in that direction, working with different populations of people throughout the years. I worked in corrections for a year, in the most recent, in a, while I lived in Indiana. I worked in private practice, community mental health, and those are all very specific types of populations that come through looking for certain types of services, certain levels of need. And so very recently, I probably in the last 5 years is when I got more into health psychology, and how the brain and body connect, and specifically like pain management, PTSD, traumatic brain injury, like how does health affect mental health? How does physical health affect mental health?
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's been even more of an exciting road, because there's now these interesting causal factors located in the brain, or comes out in joints, or comes out in those two, cardiovascular
Sure.
issues,
Yeah.
digestion, and so on. And then to think that if we could help in the mental health category, often a lot of those diagnoses, you start seeing improvement in some of those physical diagnoses. And that feels like that goes to the next level for me. Not only are they feeling better in their mind, but their bodies, and they're just feeling like they can engage back into life, like physically get back into life, which then of course
Yes.
helps the mental health. So that's fun. That's just been really fun. And so in the last year, I started working at an agency called Sucde Group in San Diego. And they work primarily with the active military population. So it's active military. And since it's San Diego, we have a lot of referrals from the Naval medical centers and Balboa
Yes.
that come to us. And I've found this new, very underserved group of people that I just really started feeling the need to. That was actually why I reached out, was that it's very difficult for the active military, possibly veterans as well, but there's a cultural component
Oh,
to reaching out and getting help. The stigma, it
yeah.
still has a long way to go within the culture, the military culture, into seeking help. They're doing it more often now, but it's still
Oh, it's looked down upon. You can't be totally honest because they'll psych you up right away.
yeah, and it could affect careers,
Yeah.
and people that are they love their career. In fact,
Yeah.
even if it's a love out of what they're benefiting out of it, they're still they identify with this career of their service, with their
Mhm.
service. And so I think it's a big deal that this disconnect remains. And what I thought to do was, what if I offered free education today and help to destigmatize this, give you a real understanding of specific treatments that are that are used to help the PTSD population, to even understand what PTSD is, like what it's physically. It's an actual brain injury. It's been identified now. So if we can start looking at this more of like from an injury standpoint, and treating it like an injury so that we can get back to our work, instead of it being an amputation that takes us out of our work.
Explain that to me a little bit more.
So
So, because
mhm,
I'm on the front side of learning about a lot of this,
mhm,
and then, well, just all of it, what they go through, what, basic, and I didn't have that in my life. So
mhm,
I grew up around the military, but I have a different reverence for it now.
mhm, mhm,
And so I don't really, I'm the idiot population, honestly. So explain the PTSD,
mhm,
uh, because it comes not just from being in the field or war, it comes from a lot of different avenues in the military. I mean, it comes from basic training, and uh,
mhm, mhm,
just the whole process
mhm,
is traumatizing in a way.
mhm,
It's supposed to be. It's
mhm,
supposed to make you resilient and tough, but it also affects broken people in a
mhm,
different way too.
mhm,
So,
mhm, mhm.
um, do
Yeah.
you think that's part of it? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to get sidetracked with that, but
Mhm, mhm.
explain what you said a little bit more about
Sure,
that.
sure. So one thing, I think one common error, and this is even something I will admit to myself, along with most clinicians who have been trained to treat trauma. specifically with PTSD or acute stress disorder, which is actually a type of stress disorder it's a very normal response to a traumatic event. A traumatic event is classified as an event that where you feel that your life is threatened, or that you witness someone else's life being threatened, or your offspring, or killed. So it's threatened or killed. And that's a specific traumatic event. Now there's other traumatic events that are more about well-being. And in the trauma treatment world, we call that the difference between a big T and a little t. The big T traumas are the life-threatening or life-taking events. The little T's are the kind of those compromise to well-being, like bullying, being rejected from your peers, being rejected from your home, just that other type of thing that we also depend on psychologically to feel safe and secure. If we're with our group, if there's a rejection, that's actually very traumatizing too. And now it's understandable. But with an acute stress, there's this particular event that happens, and our bodies and minds, it must respond in a certain way in order to stay safe. When we see our life as being threatened, there's memory that we have to remember that event in a certain way. Our sensory system remembers that event in a certain way so that we are aware if we're put ourselves in that danger again. And we have to, there's an emotional content that goes there too. Emotions are important to engage during that event so that we behave in a certain way. Emotions are just about behavior. There's a relationship. Yeah. And so when those three, the memory, like the memory, the emotion, and the physical is remembering that in a certain way, and it's believing something about in a certain way, it holds on to that so that can be used down the road to keep you safe. We do that all the time. Yes.
Yeah. Is that, as you're speaking, I'm like, because I've been through abuse and trauma and all that stuff. So I'm wondering if we looked at it differently. Because does that happen all the time now? Does that trauma that I experienced happen? Why am I so afraid? Why is that a memory response to, how would I say this? Why is it a trauma response to something that only happened when I was a kid? Why am I having those triggered responses as an adult when those things are not happening to me anymore? Mm-hmm. So that's what I'm wondering. Like, why does this thing hold us so tight? Because the reality is, I'm not being molested as an adult. I haven't been molested as an adult. I haven't been raped, or I haven't been beaten because I'm big enough to fight back now. So why do I live in that fight or flight and that fear a lot of times?
Yeah.
So is that
you're so on the right line and asking the questions, because we have to, we developed a belief at that time, and the brain does such a good job at holding on, at making meaning of that event. That's what separates us from, all the other animals, as we make meaning of these events. And then from that point on, your brain is collecting data throughout your life to continue to support that belief, to keep you safe. So it will start to interpret new events and new beliefs out there, or reinterpret things, do whatever it needs to do to continue to support the belief that was formed at that event, so as to keep you safe. And it's
From what?
whatever. It's usually in the three areas of safety.
Yeah.
So there's either I'm not
So is it?
safe.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Is this because it transfers to adult relationship in some form? Like I've been abused as a kid, so I choose to be abused as an adult. And more common for women, especially physically in that area. If they get beaten as young girls or abused, and then they fall right into that as an adult woman.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a little bit more common, I guess. I don't know.
Well, there's beliefs. There might be beliefs about the three common beliefs that we notice. And I want to, before I answer that, I want to talk about this. I want to make sure something is laid out first before the rest of the discussion, because this is part of the error that has been common until recently, when we have learned and researched more about PTSD specifically. Again, traumatic events are always happening. We're always, interacting. We see a car accident, or we're in a car accident. We've even experienced some type of bodily harm to ourselves, especially military population. They are trained to manage and see and manage high levels of stress and so on. Those exposures to those events aren't actually necessarily going to ensure that PTSD will develop.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
It's when one of those events happens that something in our nervous system changes. And
Yep.
so what we will ask, there's a couple different types of treatment that is commonly used. It's called cognitive processing therapy, or eye movement desensitization reprocessing, which is EMDR. So CPT, not CBT, CPT, or EMDR. Those two ask a very important question about history of trauma. And they ask about what's the one event that you feel has had the most impact on you. And that's an important question.
Is that I don't know much about the treatments. I'm just new to all this stuff
Sure.
too. So you're doing that now.
Yes. Yeah.
And were you doing that before?
I started learning about CPT. I didn't know EMDR. I had not been trained on yet before.
Okay.
CPT, I started learning about that. I started training in that. But man, that was probably towards the last year I was there. I started learning about how to even think about trauma in this new way. And yeah, it was until I moved out here and got very focused. Like a lot of exposure to the military population is actually what opened up this new conversation about impact of trauma. And just that, like I said, that nervous system change. And I will have people that will have multiple events happen in their lives. And one event, as you're listening to it, as a compassionate, normal human being, you're listening to it going, oh, that must be the one, like, oh my word, how are you doing? And it will actually be the one that, no, that wasn't life-changing to them. Like that was a normal, or that's what we do. That's our job. Or,
yeah.
So what we do is we switch the question and we say, out of those events, then we ask a string of questions per event, and evaluating that, out of all of this, which one of these events would you say had the most impact? And that is the one we will start targeting, because that is the one we suspect has changed the nervous system.
And how does EMDR, EDM, What is it?
EMDR, eye movement
So it's eye
desensitization.
movement. So you use how would you just do a short little thingy? How would you do that?
So with
Is it to reset the system somehow?
it's it's bilateral stimulation. So what it does, it engages the right and left hemisphere of the brain in a nice rhythmic way. It's understood that when the traumatized brain is already living in kind of like more of a heightened state, it's the right hemisphere is typically more activated, as well as the sensory system that's engaged more with the right hemisphere. It's like it has more of a conversation with the right hemisphere. So the left hemisphere, which engages more with the prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain that we apply meaning, try to make sense out of things, try to put some type of order, collective order to things. The prefrontal cortex, it engages this bilateral, engages that left hemisphere to be active at the same time the right hemisphere is processing emotion and the
Mm.
sensory part of the system with that memory. So the most research has found still, though, the most effective part of EMDR is the exposure to the trauma. And that's asking the person to identify the most impactful event. We do a certain thing that we'd get that, but the most impactful event, and to remember it internally while we apply this rhythmic back and forth reprocessing. They use it sometimes. They'll use hand instruments. They'll use a light wand. I go old school because I just feel like I have much more control out of that.
Does it feel more engaging for you that way?
Yeah, it does.
Okay.
It's like I get right up in their business, and
Right.
but it doesn't feel invasive. At first, I introduce this is what we're doing, and I do a whole thing beforehand to make sure they are comfortable and so on. But it ends up being just a very natural process and very comfortable, very quiet, and it's a gentle way to expose yourself to the memory again. And the sensory system finally is able to sort. But in both CPT and EMDR, the driving forces on those is the exposure to the event, but then a goal, an idea, a new belief that the person would be willing to believe in that situation. And that is what is so magical about the brain, is it wants to heal. It wants to feel better. It wants to think better. It wants to thrive, and it wants you to thrive. And so there might have been a negative belief that we started off that's attached to that event, but it would like to believe something else. It may not today. Most likely it doesn't. That's why we're here. But it would like to. And the therapy process is what gets us there in this really cool sort of a way. And when the brain can, and it's belief, it's not like those affirmations where you would like to believe this someday and you still are struggling. It's true belief. And
So the neuroplasticity actually sticks.
yeah, it sticks because of the therapy process that got you to that end point.
So you have a talk therapy with this as well? Is there
Not with EMDR. EMDR is strictly not talk therapy.
strictly not? Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
you just identify, you pinpoint
Mm-hmm.
basically,
Mm-hmm.
and then you focus on that
Mm-hmm.
and dull that memory into a new shiny.
It's still,
perspective change?
it's still, yes, whatever that belief is. So let's say, someone's
Yeah,
belief,
it's definitely a belief.
it has to be belief.
Yeah.
And what's cool, let's see, what's so important about knowing what you believe about something and even pinpointing it to simplistic truths, just like I'm not safe. Like when I'm with women, middle-aged women, when I'm with women of this color, if I'm with women of like whatever sensory is remembering
Right,
about
right.
this, I'm not safe. There is what the brain does with that is it starts collecting an incredible amount of data to continue to support why you cannot be safe in that situation.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I lived in fight or flight for a very, very long time.
Yes. And that
And it
sensory
was,
part. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it wasn't true. And that's what I didn't know. It's not because maybe I got fortunate in this area because there was another part of me telling me consistently, that's not true. Like, look around you. You've been in the worst places like, I've been in the only white boy in many a hood.
Mhm.
And I have never been in like major trouble. I don't, and it's not because I just think people in general are not looking to hurt other people
Mhm.
in general.
Right.
And
Right.
I was always thinking everybody wanted to hurt me.
Mhm. Mhm.
That was a false belief. Like the evidence actually supported that even in really dangerous places, somebody's not necessarily looking to hurt you.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's the real truth. I've never needed a gun. I've only been in a few fights
Mhm.
in my life. And I, that's what I'm trying to get at here is like my perspective was so shifted towards lies that I told myself to support something that was not true at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because of a few things that happened in my childhood
Mhm.
and because of one person that supported that behavior for the majority of my life
Right. Right.
and reaffirmed that. Now I don't have those support systems that reaffirm those behaviors or the belief system. So, well, the truth is
Mhm.
I don't need to fear that
Mhm.
until I need to fear that.
Mhm. Mhm. Well, and so when you identify whatever that belief is, it's just as important then to identify what would I like to
Yes.
believe.
Yeah.
People that let's say they use their faith, for instance, they struggle sometimes believing, like, let's say the Bible. There's some truths in the Bible that people struggle with because that idea right there does not support a previous belief and the belief that kept
Right.
them safe. And so even people, you can choose whichever belief you feel you need to get you to, I would like to believe that I am safe when I interact with people, or that I'm safe. It just depends on what level we're talking about here. But whatever that belief is, I would like to believe that. Um, you just, it's like you announce it. You announce it to yourself and you begin to start, the brain begins to start challenging that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, so with both of those treatments, CPT and EMDR, they both come at that new belief in very specific ways. EMDR does it in a quiet bilateral way. CPT does it in a very logical homework sort of a way, but they both are coming at it in these very similar data collecting, live life sort of a way. Like, live life and let your brain start challenging that new belief and what happens with that. And what we do then in both of those models is we're actually collecting, we actually collect numbers each time. In one, we're doing an assessment. It's called the PCL. We do an assessment to see, we do 20 symptoms. We're looking for classic symptoms in PTSD, and we're looking for those to start diminishing. There's a certain number they start at and a certain one we're looking for them to get to. And this CPT is so highly researched that it is predictable to watch those symptoms go down. And it's very cool if you execute the model per protocol. And then EMDR is the same way. There's these numbers that we look for. And there's this way we touch base in each session, make sure where we're at on those numbers. But same, you can watch those numbers go down and adjust how they're supposed to. So, what I'm hoping to convey to people who are struggling and are not getting the help because, who can help me, or how will that affect, my career if I do reach out for help? I know the military, active, they've been told they can go ask for help. And there's actually certain things that have put in place by law, like Brandon Act. That was in 2018 that was set up. But it's still not supported in the actual culture there. So I wanted to just say there's ways to go about this where if you can look at it as this is going to help me get back to my work, and I could actually I can go get a regular appointment and then talk to my PCP about this, just saying I would like help with mental health. Go to a civilian sector, like PsycDoc is very supportive of this, where we, anything that we do is to help support their career. So we're not going to be putting in, we're very, very selective, but we're also supportive and true to our profession. We're really trying to team with the military to keep active duty, to keep the employees of the military active and safe and just functioning better. So we
how do you take an entity such as that and where mental health is not welcome, because that's not part of fighting. Like, it doesn't matter about your mental health when it comes to war. It matters. You're going on the front line. So how do we change the narrative to a point that allows people in the military to feel that kind of freedom to say, I'm struggling with my mental health and I need to be able to talk about it. I need to be able to express it so I can do my everyday job and my everyday duties, because this is really hard stuff that we do.
Yeah.
So how do we change the narrative for that though?
So in the very beginning of today, I had suggested using, I think it is the accurate term now, is calling it an injury. So for when we are, they're contracted to be out, be linked with a ship, to be out, ready to deploy with that ship for 3 years. So they're contracted for deployment for 3 years and for shore duty for 3 years. I know this is the Navy community, but it's common among the different branches. Yeah. So in that shore duty time, that shore duty is now built in to deal with the injury acquired during deployment, whatever injuries those are. And it's to help longevity of the employee to be able to go back out when their deployment contract is up again and they're needing to get back out. they're given 3 years. And during that time is if they can begin, if we can start talking about PTSD from an injury standpoint, this is just about now addressing the injury of the amygdala in the brain that was compromised perhaps during deployment, or there was some precipitating things before that. Once we were on deployment, that actually exacerbated the problem.
Right.
But we can just kind of look at it more of this concrete way. And it's not about, am I a weak person? It's just, I've sustained an injury that the brain naturally sustains during life and death situations, that I'm going to get this particular, these 2 different types of specific therapies, just like we would PT,
Right.
if there's some type of, joint injury or whatever, we're going to go a specific type of treatment to treat that so that we can get back.
I love that. I really like that kind of direction, because it really is an injury. And it is something that can be at least mitigated to some degree, right?
Yes.
I mean, and that's, maybe not fully healed. It's, you got some scar tissue there, but to be a functional human being, to be able to go out into public, to be able to get out of the house, to do things that prevent you. This thing prevents you from this injury. I love that. It is like, that's interesting.
Yeah. And I've seen people, when we respond to it that way, and we really do treat it that way, we want to support our enlisted, and what they're doing is, we're extremely appreciative of what they're doing and the sacrifices they're giving. And I've never been in those shoes. I can just respect it. And what I'd like to do is be able to help you deal with that thing that you just have been through in this really respectful sort of a way. Maintain your dignity, your class, your prestige, I can do all that. In the privacy of this session, we will unpack what that is that has caused the injury, and we'll put ourselves back together again in a way that I can now go out and go back on the ship and do my work again. And it's, if anything, feel stronger. It's not feel like I now have this compromised, this injury that's, like when we sprain our ankle, we're always afraid of jumping again on the ankle. We actually don't have to do that. We can actually feel stronger. And we can.
Yep.
Because now, so like you said, scar, my brain immediately thought, oh no, that's just wisdom. We now have wisdom we're bringing into this situation, this experience, and now wisdom. And now we know when this comes up, this is what we have a tendency to do. And now we can respond a little differently. We can perhaps say something differently to ourselves that we can truly believe, and navigate this differently. So I just think it actually builds us up more. We're actually stronger people when we actually address that injury, because it's so much about, it is all in the mind. It is,
it is. And the mind is so powerful.
Yeah.
And it's so debilitating.
Yeah.
And it loves to play the games and lie and cheat and steal and pillage your sanctuary. I mean, it just does. And
yeah.
So I'm one of the things that you had counseled me for about 3 years. One of the things that I struggled with was social anxiety. and I don't know if you remember this, but as soon as you identified that, you're like, well, this is what it sounds like. The light bulb went on for me.
Mm.
And then I was able to start going in public without all the nervousness and anxiety. And I still, today, to this day, I still have a pep talk with myself before I go into public
Mm.
all the time. I just
Mm.
do. I'm like, nobody's looking, nobody's watching, nobody cares. You know, it doesn't matter what you look at.
Mm.
You're the only one holding you back right now is you.
Mm.
So that's the conversation. So what are you going to do? You're going to go be nice. You're not going to hold a chip. You're going to be a nice presence. If you can't do that, then go back home. And that's my pep talk. Like, if you can't be nice today, go home.
Good.
Like,
That's great.
yeah,
Yes.
it is like, so, but this is what I wanted to go back to. One of the things I've realized, even recently, is that I had to recognize, and then that allowed me to do something about it. Then I had to believe that I'm okay, and that nobody's watching. All these things I tell myself are like, and then I had to know that those things are not true. So I find, even in like, and I'll take this to faith a little bit. It took me a long time, a lot of fights and a lot of struggle, a lot of anger to recognize that I love my belief system. So once I recognized that, I started having more reference for it. I started believing in the things that I was talking about and the things that I was going to for my my sanctuary, my mental health, my spiritual guidance, is my God and my Father and my, those things. So I started to believe that. And now I know it. Now I know it. I don't have to believe it. I know it. And I know this exists because, well, I'm one of the lucky ones. I got evidence. I have so much evidence just in the last year and a half that there's a presence greater than me, because I couldn't have orchestrated my life to turn out to still be alive. Like, my goal was to die. I had too many things, too many instances that I could have never put in place that stood in my way. And yeah, I could have walked around them. I could have made different decisions. I could have told people to go screw themselves, my closest friends, and, made them feel bad and then go take my life and do that. But that's not who I am. That's not the nature of my spirit. That's not the nature of my anything about who I am. So that's what I wanted to kind of go back to that a little bit. Like, when you get to a knowing place, I think that is where confidence comes from, success comes from, because I know that I'll never be here again. I know that I will just get better and better and better. Why? Because I'm going to every day put the work into getting better and better and better. And
Yeah.
that's why, you're like, maybe these things weren't supposed to be heard today. I'm like, you cannot stop this freight train. These are just navigation problems.
Love
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. That I just need to learn how to navigate the thing that wants to tear me down, and that's my anger. So if I can catch up before it gets a hold of me, and it was like it started to piss me off, and I'm like, okay, but it's just navigation problems. I'm like, okay, well, we can do. It's going to work then. It's going to work.
Good.
And I know it's going to work because I have the confidence and the ability to get this thing worked out. Period.
Right.
Whether it be today or the next, but it'll work out.
Right on.
Right.
The knowing thing. That's another thing when I think of, especially some of the enlisted, they came in at late teens, early 20s. They kind of didn't know a lot of who they are and
Right.
what they care about and what are their values and what are their values outside of military and what are their values, separate from family and all of that. And So one thing that is helpful in therapy and in the it's no matter what treatment what you're trying to accomplish, is to be able to kind of stake a claim in, you know, this is me, this is what I care about, this is what matters to me. And we do that in different types of treatment models. That's a what you say, that I think it's just such a beautiful basic idea, and one
Really
that we
basic.
overlook.
It's so basic. It's like
But
we don't even look at it a lot of times. It's like
yeah,
just a 3-step process. There's just some learning avenues in between.
yeah. But it's so basic, but you better believe when people are coming in because they're struggling with mental health, most of the time, mental health, there, if I can think of, if I want to even put this into some type of research, and it might be out there, but mental health problems stem from the lack of self-awareness, uh, and to be able to
I'm
start
Yeah.
tapping into not self, like idealizing and self. I'm just talking those no's that you're talking about, the knowing, what do I care about? What is
Right.
important to me? What do I believe? And then,
Well, and then why do I believe it?
yeah.
The big question is, why do I believe what I believe?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Well, because I was told that, because that was conditioned that way, because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't do the research. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, start reading for yourself, Britain.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Quit
Yeah.
believing what people tell you, and
Yeah.
start understanding and knowing yourself.
It's
So I'm
challenging.
sorry. Go ahead, Britain.
Challenging. Yeah. No, that's it. So I'm glad you say it in that way, so that if people remember it, say it in those three again so people remember it well, because I think it's a good breakdown. It's
Recognize,
uh-huh.
believe, know.
Okay, yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
Recognize, believe, know.
yeah.
So,
So, and here's a good one for you. I was having a conversation, so
mhm.
you'll appreciate this. We're going to go a little God talk here.
I like it.
So, she's a Christian young woman, 19 years old, and she's on missions, going around the country doing stuff and struggling. We're talking, and I treat her as like I would like any young woman, young man that would come to me for advice, but she's like a daughter to me. I mean, I love her. I appreciate her. She lets me speak into her life. So we're talking, and she knows my belief system. I'm not a Christian, but I have a belief system in God, the Holy Spirit, and Christ. And I just, I think that's a title that is, I think that's earned. And I don't know that I've earned it per se. That I have a lot of improvements that I want to do with myself to be present, and I'm doing those. But anyway, I'm talking to her. I'm like, if Christ had to experience everything that man experienced, well, then he had to recognize that the possibility that he was something special. Then he had to believe that he was a prophet and really special. And then he had to know that he was the Messiah. And I think that knowing allowed him to walk the most difficult path
Mm.
that humanity had. Poor, day-to-day food, doesn't know where it's coming. Yeah, oh, he's a miracle worker. No, he's believing that he is the Messiah, and then miracles happen. He has to know enough about his true nature to say, I know
Mm-hmm.
that I am capable because my Father has blessed. Like, his dad isn't coming down saying, I got you.
Right.
He has to know in physical human form that he is the savior of the world, per se.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
That is crazy thinking. Psychotic.
Well, he's got.
But it's lasted for 2,000 years.
Yeah. And
That's how crazy it was.
yeah. Well,
That's
and
how crazy, knowing your ability and the gifts that are inherently that God gave you and put deep within your heart and your soul. Do you like, and this is what I ask people now,
Mhm.
do you want to act out? Are you angry? Do you want to be angry? If you could live a life that didn't look like you could see the beauty in life, you could wake up, be motivated every day, see why people want to live, enjoy the struggle and the navigation of things that are hard,
Mhm.
yet not feel the depression and not feel the turmoil and the torment. Would you do that over being suicidal? Would you want to still take your life? Oh no, I'd want that life any day of the week.
Uh,
We have the opportunity.
yeah. If I, yeah, I don't, I think the belief that people are struggling with that lend them to even considering suicide and ending it is there's something they believe also, whatever that is. But
Well, here's what I discovered, Jainie,
Mhm.
is that my true nature is not these outward responses to life. My true nature is giving, loving, kind, tender, all these beautiful things. Why do I believe all the lies that I've been told? And, before everything was stripped away from me,
Mhm.
before the moment I came into this world, before anything was taken, my true nature was not anger and
Mhm.
jealousy or hate or this response to trauma. It wasn't. My true nature is this beautiful thing. And I discovered that. Do I act out in that thing all the time? No. That's where grace comes in. That's where I ask for forgiveness. That's where I forgive other people. That's where I give grace. That's where I'm given grace.
Mhm.
That's where I'm given forgiveness. So if I can understand that, I can love me every day.
Mhm. Mhm.
These outward responses are not my true nature.
Mhm.
I have to give myself a lot of grace. Anger is my biggest nemesis, and I have to give myself grace in that anger because
Mhm.
that is the very thing that always tries to tear me down. So why do I let it tear me down? It is no longer my controller. Do I lose it sometimes? Yeah. Okay. But do I stay mad at myself? No, because I have something inside me saying that's not your true nature. Remember who you are.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
Just you're okay. Let's figure out how to navigate this problem. Okay, I can do that.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
and then it's gone. So I've blown up. 10 minutes later, I'm like, okay, I forgive myself.
Mhm. Mhm.
I'm not hurting. Yeah.
I
So go. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I really that's what if people could think about therapy, using therapy for that. Um, it doesn't have to be this a long journey. Even it's just the willingness to start even considering what are the things I care about. And there might be a challenge because, I mean, again, we start at this side of the belief system of
Yeah.
we don't believe that. Like,
Yeah.
I would like to believe that I'm a caring person. I would like to believe that I don't want to die. I would like to, whatever.
Right.
Um, but we're not there yet. And that's there's a self-compassion that I hope the therapist can even start modeling in that, and is that this is what self-compassion looks like. This is what
Yes.
this is what like, we're good, let's just keep
Yeah.
doing this, let's just keep working. And to be able to provide that for a person that has never tried it before, tried therapy. I And try it again if you get with a therapist and they suck. It's okay. Just go to a different
It
one.
is. Yeah. I mean, give it at least 2 or 3 times.
Yes.
I'm a 3-time believer. I'm like, I'll give something, and if I still feel similar or the same way, then I'll bail. But it's generally like I'm a judgmental person, so my first time is a wash. It's like if it didn't go great or something like that, it's because you're judging everything that's going on. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then I give myself relaxation, and then the third time is generally I've formed enough to know long term what will come of it.
Well, I will say, man, it really depends on both of the people though, because
Yeah,
you
that's
could get
true.
a really good, and when I say suck and good in the form of judging therapists, let me just
Right.
qualify that. You can get really good therapists in there if the person's just, they're so wrapped up in a this self-defeating belief system. It's going to be hard to engage in therapy. And what would make a sucky therapist is one that just struggles to navigate the art. And there really is the art. So most therapists are good, is what I'm trying to say. Most of the time you'll run into a
Yeah.
good therapist because
Yeah.
especially if they're in it for any amount of time, there is a natural art that they know how to use it. They're in the field for a reason, but that
Right.
doesn't mean that it's just there's going to be a chemistry needed for you guys to get where you
Yep.
need to go. But
Yep.
most of the time, if they're in it for any length of time, they know how to work it. But whatever that belief system as a person is coming in with, it's how much they're able to engage in therapy at that time. That's
Right.
hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard to talk about these things that you just said for the very
It is
first
really,
time.
I find that the more I'm out, the more I become this person with, being podcaster and understanding that everybody has a story. The deeper conversations happen really, really quick for me because I'm in this area, like everybody has something. Everybody struggles with something.
Yeah.
And everybody just wants somebody, even the most closed off people are like, I had a guy that's I think he's in his 70s, beard down to his chest, old hippie. And I just started talking to him. I think it was just because I was vulnerable with him first and, talked to him about my podcast. And by the end of it, he was telling me his stories about his life and his father committed suicide, things he had probably never told anybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, oh, wow, like
Mm-hmm.
it's all there.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's got it somewhere. And, I heard this thing today. It was this old cowboy. He's like, real men don't say what they feel. They are surrounded with people that respect what real men do for them. And I was like, but you must be surrounded by good people then, because not everybody has that.
Mm-hmm.
So for you to tell people to be silent and not speak about their emotional trauma because I think that's bad advice. I think that's bad. If you want to stay closed off, you don't want to speak, that's your choice. But
Mm-hmm.
I think that's bad preaching, and the fool's tongue is predominant right now,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
because of the internet and freedom of speech, and
Yeah.
people can just say and do whatever they want and be rude and cruel and mean, and then we believe that about ourselves
Yeah.
instead of believing the people that are actually good in our life
Yeah.
and tell us the good things. Why is it so easy to believe the bad and not the good?
Safety. We're drawn to safety. Things that,
Yeah.
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 Let's see. It doesn't have to be a therapist. A therapist they're just trained in the field of psychology, but just to connect and have someone, it could be, if it needs to be a pastor, if you need to feel like a sense of privacy, someone that's in the realm of maintaining your privacy that you're needing,
Right.
okay, then use that.
Yeah.
But if you don't need that, find someone that you connect with. I will say someone that's feeling a mounting pressure and they have never told anybody about their thinking about suicide, the first person you tell, if you feel like this can be a person that can at least protect my privacy, there's a pressure
Okay.
that relieves just by
Yeah.
saying it out loud. And all,
Huge.
yeah. And it doesn't and it doesn't build from there. If anything, it finally lets your brain be open to possibly other thoughts and ideas.
Do you may not remember this. Do you remember when I first came into your office? I don't know if I can say this, but I said it. So I was like, I'm suicidal. You can send me to a ward, but it won't do you any good. I was like, and I might just prove you wrong. So or something like that. So, I mean, I was like, my point was I needed to let go of this thing that haunts me every moment of my days. Like, there are very few moments where I'm not like, I shouldn't be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to, like, I want to die today. Like, today's a great day to die. It's sunny. It's cloudy. It's rainy. It's gorgeous out. Like, today's a great day to die. That was every day was a great day.
Okay. Well, what was that? I mean, because I won't say what your experience was. What was your experience then for others when you finally did that?
Well, I had healing. I found joy. We did about 3 years of counseling. I want you to actually kind of talk about this part of it, because you're like, when somebody comes into counseling, we have a basic timeline of, the first year should be this, the second year should be growing towards this, and then the third you should be on the way of, living, growing, getting better, continuing, being able to step out on you. Like, there's this process that happens. It doesn't happen that way for everybody. Some have more traumatic experiences than others. I happen to be pretty self-aware. So, but I was still that 3-year thing. And in there, I found joy, through that process. I found happiness. I experienced things that I'd never experienced before. Now I'm experiencing things that I never experienced back then that I didn't know existed. Like peace. I didn't understand peace. I am at peace. 100% at peace.
That's awesome.
At peace. Oh, it's fantastic. Which is, I thought joy was the caveat to all good things. And it's actually peace is the caveat to joy and all good things. And it's hard to find peace, but go ahead.
Yeah. Well, since it's a practice, I still am learning things too as a clinician. I would say now to someone to directly find someone who will work through your trauma with you. And it may go faster than 3 years.
Yeah.
In fact, if they're specialized, which I am now, which I wasn't then, I mean, I don't know. It all happens how it happened. And here we are today. But I do wonder if focusing more on trauma with a specialized treatment approach, if that could have been faster.
Yes.
But I don't know. I hesitate to say that because I think everything, it's divinely above us all with how things work out.
Yeah. And I can answer that. Yes, it would have helped. Especially doing the treatment that I did, it would have maybe propelled me forward. But again, back to your point, I needed everything that happened up to this point to happen for me to be where I'm at right now, because I found something that I don't think a lot of people find if you get treatment. And I had to be ready. I had to be willing to give up my old thought process. I didn't want to be me anymore. And you know what? Every day, like the other day, yesterday I dressed up for an interview, and I'm like, I get to dress how I want. Like, I get to be I don't care if I get this job or not, but I get to present myself. So I got my little bowler hat, not bowler, but my little Irish, Boston Scully hat on, and just a nice little, I tucked my shirt in. I was like, I never tucked my shirt in. I'm like, and I looked like a handsome young man. I was like, all right, and and I wasn't confident. I was confident because I chose to do something about me, not because I looked good or anything. I just chose. I was like, I don't care. I'm going to go be the best person I can be and be me no matter what. The guy, he stumbled twice and wanted to hire me right there. But he still had to talk to the boss.
Okay.
so,
Okay.
so
Oh, that's
yeah,
something. That's cool.
yeah. So, I mean, even if they pick somebody else, that's fine. I got another interview. It's
Yeah.
like in a couple
Cool.
days, but
Let's wear your
it's
hat.
like I am now, but this is also what I wanted to kind of tell you about is I've learned to step back from my life and be an observer. So this angry person, this person that does stupid stuff, this person that acts out in certain ways or says certain things, or I am now the observer. Is that like those behaviors? I look at those and like from an observer, like what is this person doing? What is Britain telling the story? So I have a friend who's blind in both eyes and has lost one leg. He's had all the money, he's had the cars and the houses and all that stuff. And now he's on disability. And he said, Britain, I wouldn't change it. And I wouldn't trade it to go back for any of that stuff. And I was like, this is one of the people that stepped in my path to save my life. Really profound. And I kept, as I was talking to him over this 3-hour period, I couldn't figure out why I could feel so bad when this man was so positive and lost so much. And he said, it's made me a better person. It's made me a better son. It's made me a better boyfriend. It's made me a better brother. It's made me a better. He said, I wouldn't trade being better for having something that serves me no purpose. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So, and that's where I'm at. I'm like, yeah, I have these behaviors still, but they're not my controlling factor now.
Yes.
I am my controlling factor.
Yeah.
I can be the observer of, oh, that was anger. Okay. So what do you do with anger? Well, you got to forgive it a little bit. You got to give it some grace. You got to, there's appropriate anger. So you got to figure out how to find that.
Right.
You've just always started beating your fists and smacking the ground. So how do you not do that? Well, you recognize it. It's like, well, I don't have to be angry. I don't have to draw my swords. I don't have to. Okay, but my emotions are amped. Well, that's okay. Sit with it for a minute. You don't have to beat anything up. You don't have to break any inanimate objects. You don't have to yell. You don't have to cuss. You catch it, recognize it, and then break it down, navigate it.
What's really cool how you're describing. So it didn't. I really hope people can hear it. You didn't start out that way. You were angry. You're a very angry person. And the growth, I'm thinking from a brain and the plasticity standpoint, the growth in the brain, the particular parts of the brain that are underdeveloped often when there's been a lot of trauma history is so much problem self-regulating because you're just living in this traumatized brain. And so the time you invested in yourself, like you said, I decided I don't, how did you say it? I don't know. You didn't want to be you anymore or something like that.
Yeah. I don't want to bring me to the table anymore.
Yeah. That you were open for new discussions. You were open to ask new questions. You were engaged. You did homework and all of that. You just worked it. The brain, it's like, cool. It's very simple. It's very,
No.
it's not, you don't have to work at like prepping the brain
Right.
as much as we have to work at prepping our minds. The brain's ready to go the second our mind is ready to engage. The brain's ready to heal the moment you put the little antiseptic into the wound. The natural biology starts taking off. And that regulation that happens, I keep doing this because I think there's a part of the brain that does, it's a connection between the limbic area and the prefrontal area. And it does it throughout all of the different lobes and reticular formation, but it's underdeveloped with the traumatized brain. And what you did is you actually worked at growing that. And you were doing that by doing a lot of the prefrontal requirements, which is the self-awareness, the new questions, the asking, why. And that is actual physical therapy. Like if you were to go into physical therapists and they advance you from a green band to a red band, type of thing, that's actually what's happening in the brain when you are doing these particular exercises. And it's so cool because, and then this is the end. This is the end product.
Yep.
And I think that's so hopeful and amazing. And I want more people to know about it. The mechanics of mental health,
Yeah, and it's possible. So this is the other thing, especially, I mean, you know me and you know my history and stuff like that. Suicide ideology is looked at as a mental health issue, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Maybe I'm looking at this wrong, but I'm the sanest suicidal person I've ever met in my life. Like my logic lines up, I'm smart. Like I'm not uneducated. I'm not, like when I told that story of this is me, this is what happened, this is what I did, this is what I squandered, and now I have nothing, and this is why I'm going to go take my life. And it was a solid story.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember where I was going with that, but
well, you're wondering if why is it a mental health issue? Because you felt like the sanest.
Because if I can, I guess I look at mental health as incurable. That's the way it feels to me, because that's the way it looks. But I'm on the other side of this.
Mm-hmm.
Suicide's not even in my arena, and my arena is big. Like I can't even find any. Like why would I want to? I can't understand why I would want to take my life. What?
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
I can't understand. I now know why people want to live. I'm sorry, what? I've never understood why people wanted to live. Do you know how broken and ugly I've seen this world? It's ugly. Like I can feel it across the world. It's just absorb it, and and I feel the darkness in it. And then now all I can see is the beautiful connection between life and me and animals and trees and grass and the universe. And I'm like, how can people not see this? And I don't know if my God is right or Christ. I don't know. That's not my mission, is to change somebody's belief system. My mission is to help people find life. Well, I found life through my belief system and through, natural medicine and a lot of post work. Lots of post work, lots of meditation. I take care of myself now. I'm cooking. I was like, I'm going to learn something this year. I was like, what is it going to be? Guitar? Am I going to go sing to the birds? What am I going to do? And I decided I'm going to learn to cook.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to learn to cook for myself. I can cook. I'm a pretty good cook. I've been cooking for myself since I was 10. Now I'm going to learn how to cook.
So what's different?
Yeah.
What are you cooking now?
Well, just learning some of the culinary arts, like how to use the knife properly, like using garlic and mincing and reducing wine. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, it is an art. It's another art.
Oh, it's like, I'm like, oh, like it's starting to, I've been watching cooking like class things. And I'm like, this is really cool. Like, I don't have a large palate, but what if I could find things that really mix and match to make my palate feel quite lovely? Like I would love to eat mushrooms, but so how do I do that? How do I mix that? How do I institute that into my food? And I'm like, oh, now I've got a challenge. I'm like, okay, this is what I'm going to learn over the next 5 months. So
yeah,
I'm challenging myself to.
Yeah. Well, the fact that you can even, that you're even engaging in that forward thinking mindset is that would be a symptom of health, healing,
Right.
like positive health.
Yeah.
It's not natural, like biologically, we are not wired to achieve death. The cell doesn't look to die. The cell has to die. The cell wants to split and
Right.
divide, and the cell is constantly looking for ways for it to survive. Nutrition, whatever we bring in, it rejects. It's expelling things that reject it, and then if there is an unhealthy cell, then the organism starts to decline. It's not wanting that, but if it can be eradicated and taken out for new life to begin, it will start. It just continues to divide. We look for life. We do not look for death. So if there's someone looking for death, that still does not indicate, that doesn't indicate to me that they are truly achieving ultimate health. It's even if they can talk with me in full great discussions on all kinds of things, there's still a tumor happening
Yes.
there.
Yes.
That needs to be addressed, because that's not how you're biologically wired. And so I will always see it that way. I don't know if I'll always see it that way. I haven't seen anything. If anything, I keep learning more things that keep supporting that idea. And then you totally see a difference when I'm going to call it a tumor for lack of better words, but when that unhealthy factor is taken out, there is something that starts to flourish in a person that you just kind of sit back and you go, that is,
Yep.
we're done. Like, you're good. And because that's going to continue. And
Yeah.
of course, there's still personal responsibility of maintaining those healthy things in your life. You can't, you may have to make new decisions that support health.
Well, I think, I would say I'm building a castle right now. So I have, how would you say this? Reinstituted mentorship into my life. So I have a mentor,
Mm-hmm.
nutrition, exercise, heavy meditation. I love meditation. I've fallen in love with it. I look forward to it because I'm engaging in my spirit and I'm engaging with my creator. I love that. I love being in that presence. I love having those conversations. And I've had some really profound epiphanies to keep me propelling forward. Like stuff that comes out of my mouth now, I can't even believe that I say it. I'm like, where did Mr. Jainie, I got accused of being too positive the other day. What?
That's so funny. That's so funny. Yeah, that's good.
I know, and I was like,
picturing.
I'm so sorry, I'm positive, but I'm not. I should be. Maybe I don't. I mean, she was my friend, and she was trying to be. She's just like, I can't handle it right now. I was like, I'm so sorry for being so positive. That's the best criticism I've ever gotten.
I know. Oh my gosh. I'm just picturing like way back when some of the conversations, I'll just say that. I don't think you would have ever pictured that would be your future. Yeah, that's so funny.
No.
That's awesome.
And even when I was doing good, I never had this language. And that's one of the big things that I was challenged with early on when, 6 months ago, was change your language about how you speak, period. So and which is on my table, especially with my cussing is a big thing for me. It's, which I had an epiphany on that. It's, you've never really surrendered it to me. So that was my epiphany.
Oh, okay.
But it was, be careful about how you tell your story to other people. So, and what I mean by that is, how am I telling my story? Like, I'm poor. Well, you're not poor. You just don't have financial, the only poor place in my life is financially. I am the richest man I've ever met in my life to this date.
That's so great.
Hands down.
That's so
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. And you knew my darkness. I mean, you saw it. It was present. And I don't feel that anymore. I don't feel that weight. I don't feel that. Now it was like a reset to my system and my mind. And the story's still there. That old story, the narrative is just very, very different. That story does not dictate Britain Day today at all. At all. If anything, it makes me so much better and so much more and so much wiser and so much more thankful.
When you say the thing on words, the power of words, that is something. So here, I don't know if you've learned this then in what you've been learning. I'd like to say it at least out loud, because the power of words is a really big deal, more than maybe we realize, even at a physical level. So there's this one treatment that sometimes it's called acceptance commitment therapy. And in this therapy, they introduce the idea of the power of words. And they use the example of, if I say the word lemon and I talk about the lemon and what it can do when I cut into it and when I squeeze it and then when I taste it, if you notice, your little glands are, they're kind of starting to activate when you really start thinking about that, just the lemon.
Right.
And so that we use that because that's a big one. Lemon can really provoke, physical response, but it's all of our words actually provoke some type of physical response. We're just not aware of it most of the time. So if you think of the word poor, we all have a physical, that's housed in our bodies some way. It resonates with us some way. So imagine the amount of negative, if you're using negative to tell your story, or to even be talking back to yourself about you, and just how is your body wearing that? Yeah. And in health psychology, we really tap into the idea of words, because we really believe the amount of chemicals we produce in our bodies, many of them aren't even necessary, but we're trying to manage what our language is doing back to us, So if someone's if I really address this with people and we do specific work around that, they can actually start experiencing physical differences in joints and cardiovascular. And it's amazing. Asleep, just with how they speak to themselves. And that's a really big deal. And we just take that stuff in and out, especially if we grew up in homes where language, however it was used, it was not used to build us up. Like we're wearing that physically in our bodies. We wear that. And so back to what you had said earlier, to become aware of that, to believe a new thing, to know what those things are that you learned, it's really big. So words are a big deal, even physically.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things, and maybe this at some point you could use this for somebody, is one of the biggest things my buddy, the blind legless miracle, for lack of better terms, he was like, hey, Britton, have you ever went back and listened to your story that you did on Soft White Underbelly? I was like, no, I can't. He's like, go listen to it. But don't listen to it as yourself. Listen to it as an observer, as an outsider. Say, what is this person telling themselves? What story is this person telling themselves? And when I went back and looked at it, and when I went back and heard the words that were coming out of my mouth, that story that I was telling you is the exact story I tell myself. And I'm like, well, that story is very ugly and negative. No wonder. No wonder. It's the words you're using, that story you tell yourself, no wonder you're tormented. What about, I'm glad that everything that has ever happened to me has happened to me. Everything that I've lost was necessary to make me the best person that I can possibly be. And I'm still not even there yet. Like the possibility is unfathomable of what I can become.
Yeah.
And that is a very different language than I have ever used about. Are you kidding? Britton, I'm 54 years old. I'm diabetic. I'm blind. I'm broken. I'm financially broken. Like, but wait, you're telling me you have the capability of doing anything? Yes, I do. That's just the lies that I tell myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are just the lies that I tell myself. Yeah, so what? I do have diabetes. That means I can relate to somebody with diabetes.
Yes.
Yeah, so what? I am blind, so I understand what it is to be disabled. Yeah, I have had a brain tumor, so I know what it is to have a major surgery. I know what it is to suffer. I know what it is to recover. I know what it is to stand up. I know what it is to fight. God, I'm so much more. Wow. I'm not broken.
Yeah. Even that word, when you said scar earlier, that's when I was like, it just sounds like wisdom to me, like,
which I love that.
but it's that we don't
That's your tableau.
and that's what I hope people can get from that too. Just, I wonder the torment they're experiencing has to do with the language they're using back to themselves, like you're saying.
I would almost guarantee it's the language we use against it. I did it the other day and I caught myself. I was like, you dumbass, you stupid. Oh, no.
That's not nice. No. That's not nice.
Well, it's not. Like, why would you tell that to the most beautiful person that you know?
Right.
Myself.
Yeah.
Like, I should be the most beautiful person that I know. Right? That's a big
precious change. Yeah. You're yes. We are.
That just came out of my mouth. I didn't know that. I'm like that. That should be true. I should be the best person that I know.
Yeah.
Because where's that going to go? To everybody else. I also heard this thing yesterday. It was like, your gifts aren't yours. They're for other people. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah. But I'm going to keep some of that.
Oh my God. Yes. Yeah. That was inspiring. I heard that in graduate school. There was one of the students and one of my peers, they were, it was like they're on their second or third career. I think he was in the military, retired military. Then he did something else. And then by his 60s, he was doing his graduate in counseling, and alcoholic. He had recovering alcoholic. And so he got up and talked to all of us, like we all had for some course completion requirement. And he taught that always stood out to me is, I was an alcoholic so that I can understand what people I'm helping are going through. It was profound to me because I had recently been through my own journey and very much feeling like useless. Like, what the heck am I doing in the counseling world? And I can't say that enough now, being on this side of it, is how much we've been through is for the help of another person. Yeah. It's to identify. I mean, that's what Christ did himself. He identified with us, and even to the cross, even to death, he identified with pain and with the want for life, and the the big decisions he had to make.
Yeah.
And the rejection and so on. So, man, I think that's just, if things can be turned in these different ways, I think of with the military, the culture, there's a lot of good language in there. There's a lot of bad language. The good language is always about self-respect, about the group, about just what we're doing, like the bigger cause and all of that. There's a lot of positive potential, which is often why people struggle with even thinking about something that could compromise them in some way from being able to do their job. But then the negative language is so toxic. It's like there's no middle. It's either I have this big ideology about myself, but I suck as a human being because my commander just got in my face about, and they get in there and they get in your face. Yeah. It can be really punitive.
I know I disrespected officer once.
Oh,
it was not pretty.
Yeah.
I did not mean to, but I got what was coming for sure. It taught me a lesson.
Yeah. Well, there's a whole world that I think is underserved because of how that culture has to work to do its job.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's like the constant conflict is they have to endure these things so that they can do this job. But why can't, I want to segue this, if I could, with suicide, why that has become epidemic in the military, is due to the top two reasons. And that is now the highest reason why active duty, the death of active duty has to do with suicide. It's not actually combat. The number has surpassed combat, and reasons for dying is due to suicide in the military.
Yeah, it's 22 a day for veterans, and it's one. I think it's active military in war is one per day that is a casualty of war. So we're losing 22 veterans per day to suicide, where active military we're losing about one. So the epidemic of suicide is very high, is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Then I put some numbers because I wanted to just kind of see
Okay,
what those.
great.
I have, like you said, 22 for veteran per day, 25 for active,
Per day.
per day.
For suicide.
I'm sorry, I misspoke. 25 per 100,000 people. So every 100,000 people, 25 are due to suicide.
100,000 active?
Yeah, of active
duty?
people. Per day.
Oh, wow.
So you're going to multiply that.
Gosh.
You're going to multiply that per 100,000. Yeah. And then
that's exponential.
And then with reserve service is 19 per 100,000. And then 18, I had 18 to 22 per day with veterans. I was looking at these different sources, and because I wanted to get a picture, and then that said to me, okay, so this is why I wanted to ask, could I please speak to this? Because that's what I'm feeling, just anecdotally, that's what I'm feeling when I'm working with people, is there's an epidemic going on. What is happening? Why? Then I was wondering what's the mental illnesses that are around this, and in the past, I think it's been assumed it's substance related, but it's actually PTSD and depression are the common mental illnesses that are contributing to suicide, is this history of PTSD and so on. So it's this untreated injury that goes on and on, especially if it goes untreated. It's an injury that does not get better. It does not resolve itself.
Right.
And
Do with like alcohol and drugs, that's when suicide happens, is when the alcohol and drugs stop shutting the voices up. And that's not a result of alcohol and drugs. That is, the alcohol and drugs stop. It just doesn't do what it's supposed to do anymore. And that's shut the monkeys up that are just relentless and they're tumultuous and yeah.
So I wanted to talk about for the enlisted who feel like those monkeys, they won't shut up. They don't have, especially if they're command. I want to speak out to, if I could boldly speak out to specific commands. There's toxic commands out there. I'll hear about issues related to specific groups that goes to leadership. There's something going on with that that's not being well educated with leadership. And this is how these people are handling it. And I'm speaking beyond myself at this point, but I feel like a voice needs to start infiltrating the air here. This isn't necessary. These people do have a place to go. There's different resources. I'll just say just for the sake of making sure it's out there. You can use Military One Source online, and there's a bunch of different specifically suicide resources on that. You can text 838-255, and there's someone on the other end that will immediately start walking you through.
And this is for military.
For military. These are military crises.
Just active duty, or
veteran and active.
Okay.
You can, for veterans and active, you can also call 988 and then press 1. 988 and then press 1, and you can talk with someone on the phone.
Okay.
These are specific lifelines for military that are meant to help through suicide. And if anything, to reach out. There could be other civilian places out there, but I know PsycDoc, particularly in California, since we're able to treat people in California, we understand the military culture with how we're treating mental health. So we understand the nuance to that. If you don't feel like, I know on the ships, they have a psychologist they see maybe once or twice. That function of that psychologist is not, and this is another thing, I'll get frustrated feedback on this is, I went to therapy. Like I saw him a couple times, so I could get through deployment. And then it was useless. I mean, I shouldn't say useless, but it was limited.
Very limited, yeah. And
so but often I'll get that was my experience. So there's no hope. And I'm like, oh no.
Yeah. It's that first experience. And even in the civilian world, it's just, people go and have not a great experience or don't get any relief from their frustration. And they're like, well, that didn't work.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, there's so much out there that people actually care. And there's resources out there that really want you to find healing and live. So don't give up.
Yeah.
I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. And just to speak out to the questions that sometimes are out there about it, the assumptions, I hear them often. All the things I've said is I hear this often. I hear supportive commands and unsupportive commands, and I see the outcome of that. And um,
Hmm.
yeah, interesting. Even through the OBGYN world, the pelvic health, we do a lot with pelvic health, but that's very interesting to see. Sometimes people don't even understand why they're being referred for mental health, but the gynecologist, the provider, they notice that there's trauma, like significant trauma history, that this military member doesn't even realize is a connection.
Oh, wow.
It's incredible, but we team with that. We team with the military to help the people, and help the military. We're not trying to get anyone out of the military. We're just trying to help you get so that you can get back to duty and
Right.
function well and in a
Yep.
better way, so
Yeah, I'll just mention these two. There's Northwest Battle Buddies. They do canine for PTSD. I just did a interview with them, and what a beautiful organization. And what a passion and what a patriotic heart per se. Just fantastic people. And then there's No Fallen Heroes, Wiz Buckley. I believe they're on the East Coast, but there's like no heroes or no one left behind. And these two organizations this is where I'm starting to get familiar with some of this and how serious this is, and did not know what this was, how serious this was until the last 5-6 months, and the stories I've heard and the people I've talked to, and some of the original Navy SEAL and Delta Force, and what these guys have done and gone through, and to see them try to come back into civilian life and live normally is very, very hard. So, you got guys like Wiz and Shannon Walker for Northwest Battle Buddies. Their passion is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So
that's so good. That's so good. Yeah. I just, they've done a lot. They've done more than just, if this gives you any idea, when we do an assessment for someone with PTSD to make sure they meet criteria for one of the CPT treatment model, with civilians, the stress level needs to be anything. I believe it's 39 with civilians. If a number needs to be 39, anything above that, they're candidates for the CPT model.
okay.
For military, the number needs to be 50, because that's how much stress they're used to and have been trained to manage. Wow. So they're already they just have done a lot. They're trained, and we respect that. But at some point, the brain is affected. We just don't know which event that's going to be,
Right.
And if we could just look at it more like this injury was caused by this event, you as an individual are not broken. This aspect of you has been injured. We want to get that so that you're actually better, just better. You're doing better than you were even pre-military, like what if that could be? And so I'm trying to get that out. And I didn't know, before working with the population, I just underestimated, even being in the field for as long as I have, I didn't realize. And I feel like this is the little bit that I can give back to a well-deserving group.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I have a different reverence for the military now. I mean, nobody likes war. Nobody wants to go to war, but I have a high respect for what they put themselves through and the conditions that they enter into voluntarily to give us this very freedom that we have right now. And that's to have a conversation uninhibited.
Yes.
And the only population that can shut us down is the population in this country. And it's our government won't even shut us down. And that's, wow. I mean, that's unbelievable. Like I never really understood the little privileges of life. And when you look at it from through a different veil and you see the good in it, and then the heartbreak and the hard parts of it, and you can embrace that and say, life is hard, and that's the beautiful part, is it is hard.
Yeah.
So
yeah. It's full. It's just full.
Yeah. So, do you have any closing suggestions? I don't want to say advice because advice kind of puts on the hook, and it's suggestion is like just think about it. So,
my first suggestion is for someone that is feeling isolated. I just want to remind you to consider telling someone if you have not told anyone that you are thinking about suicide, to connect with someone that you can trust. It's probably a professional. It's probably a professional. It might have to be someone in the civilian world, or it could be one of these reach out, but to let the pressure off, to finally put it out there, but to connect.
Yeah. And just on this, not someone you think you can trust, someone that you know you can trust, because there's a very big distinction. You could think you can trust a friend, and then a few months later they're turning their back on you. So it's really somebody that would be in a professional position. I would say that, because I told all my friends, and 95% of them walked away. The people that I thought I could count on, rely on, trust, that love me, that I love, that I had deep, intimate conversations with, all walked away. So that is a very slippery slope when there's no confidentiality in that.
Yes. So I recommend
just be
people
careful,
that are in that realm of responsibility with information. And that can also be clergy. That can be the chaplain, the Navy chaplain, or the military chaplain. Your priest. Your priest has more confidential rights than a therapist. So there are people out there that trust your information.
Do you know if a priest, if it has to be their priest, or like maybe I'm not Catholic, can I go in confessional? I mean, is that?
Yes. Yeah.
And they have that confidentiality.
Yep. They hold that.
Okay.
Yep.
There's no excuses, right?
Yeah. Yeah. There's places to find that. And then another, if I really loved what Britton said earlier too, is there people that have turned their back on you, you said, once you did tell them, what you did when you started therapy today, what you said in this moment was you decided, I didn't want to be me anymore. And what I heard from that is I now want to be open to new ideas. I don't want to, those people that turn their back on you, most likely they had that older ideology anyways. Like there was a reason why.
It's hard to watch a friend go take their life and know about it. I will give them that. 1,000%. I've seen some of my closest friends waver on the fence and want to walk away. It's really hard information to take. It's not for everybody.
And that's fair. And I don't think, absolutely. So that's why to start with a professional is the first recommendation. But the second is to consider how you've been believing about all of this in the first place, and would you be open to some new ideas?
Yeah.
To just start that conversation with yourself. I'm open to something new. And it's not going to be natural. It's not going to be a fit you like a glove scenario. It's going to be weird and clunky and Pollyanna-ish, and some things that you're just, for so long, you've been used to living in the sludge, and you've been used to swimming in it, and you've grown muscles that have adapted to it, but not well because you're sinking. And so just being open to new ideas, but not expecting, once you've decided to be able to talk about this, like Britton said, it's really hard for people to hear. They love you. They can't imagine you taking your life. And there's a lot of anger that comes with that. But that's also part of the new. So all that's part of the new. It's a new awareness of a lot of things. But I'm hoping today also shows what the other side of this very well can look like. Once you are open to new. Working with someone that you just are comfortable with for a while, working it out.
A new diet of language towards yourself is a big one. I mean, it's probably one of the more powerful things you can do is change the language about yourself and the story you tell yourself. I think that's been one of my biggest things. And now it's becoming more natural in a weird way for me to be positive. I don't really understand that, but it's like, as I've watered that plant, it just wants to blossom.
It's because you feel at more peace. You really are. Your brain is really memorizing now what helps it feel at peace, because that's what it wants. It wants to feel at peace. It just wants to feel copacetic and good and safe. And so once you've given it enough of that, it remembers it and it comes back for more. So there's absolutely the other side of this.
Yeah, for sure.
So I don't know. I hope I could go on and on. Like,
I know. And we'll probably have another discussion about this stuff.
So much.
Because this will be a
crew in particular. Yeah.
And I think this is going to be a more focused in that general direction.
Okay.
So
interesting.
It's actually moving that way. I don't know if it'll be this, but possibly another podcast geared towards that. I don't know. It's just the more I'm presented with it, the more I keep getting put in front of it. I usually get put in front of things that are not my forte. So it's time to learn.
That's so how it is. That is so how it is. Oh my word.
So, well, thank you, Jainie, for being here. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate everything, the information, the willingness to be part of this. And just, if there's any way people can support you or what you're doing, well, happy to put that out there. So thanks for being on the Suicide Monk. And
all right.
Any last words?
No, I'm happy to be a part of this too. I'm hoping this helps people that need to hear it. That's what I trust. I trust it's out there, and people that are needing to hear this are hearing it right now. And it's been a source of hope. So,
Well, we appreciate you being here and appreciating the willingness, and you being a student of your trade. Without professionals like you, we couldn't get better in a lot of ways. So thank you.
Yeah. You're welcome.
Well, thank you for joining us today in this conversation. And next, we're going to have a word from Scarlet Raven from White Fox Medicinals. Thanks. And we'll see you on the good side.
Hi, I'm Scarlet Raven, and I am the head alchemist and founder of White Fox Medicinals, which is an all-organic, earth-based plant medicine remedy company where I make effect-based tinctures and topicals to help you feel healed, whole, and totally loved. I have stuff like the Repair Remedy salve that will take out inflammation and pain from your muscles and your body. Other things that actually boost your spiritual inner love, like the Wild Starseed Love Cream. When you put this on, you smell intense aromas of deep Aztec chocolate, which awakens this love inside of your heart. This is edible. You can use it as a body cream. I also have a whole line of tinctures. Some of them heal the nervous system. Some of them boost your body's ability to heal itself. So whatever you're seeking for whole physical balance, that's going to incorporate your body, your mind, your soul, and your spirit, then I have some beautiful healing offerings for you. So go check it out at whitefoxmedicinals.com, and I'm happy to get you all set up.